Taking a nice breath in, a nice breath out. Draw the hands together in front of the heart. And we'll chant the invocation mantras. Starting with Om. Om. Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Ganana Antva Ganapati Gum Havamahe Kavin Kavinam Upama Shravastamam Jestarajam Brahmanan Brahmanaspata Anashrinvanuti Pisidha Sadhanam Mahaganapataye Namaha Prano Devi Saraswati Vajebhir Vajinivati Dhinama Vitriyavatu Ano Divo Brahataf Parvata Da Saraswati Ajata Gantu Yagnyam Havan Devi Jujushana Gritachi Shagmam Nova Chamushati Shrinotu Vagdevyai Namaha. Releasing the hands down, fluttering the eyes open. And so in honor of our retreat attendees today, those who were so brave as to come and spend the weekend in silence, thank you for your courage, for your bravery, for your willingness. Today we're going to talk about sound and silence and what these things have in common, and how they're healthy and good for us and how they're not, what they mean spiritually, and how we misunderstand and misuse them both of them. And so this is very important when we're walking through the world with an intention of coming to know the self. Because this entire world, the human-made world and the natural-made world, is full of distractions. And a primary distraction is sound. And so all distractions come in through the five senses: sound, sight, smell, taste, touch. Sound, sight, smell, taste, touch. Wow. Had to double check myself there. It's been a quiet weekend. So all distractions come in through the five senses. And sound is a huge distraction, huge distraction. It is also a violent distraction. It can be a very violent distraction. How many of you watch CSI? Or are used to? How many of you have watched Friday the 13th? Or some other similar show? I'm Stephen King fan all the way growing up, although I have to say my favorite book by Stephen is the fantasy book that he wrote for his daughter, which, away from the genre. After I read that, and after Pet Sematary, the first one, I couldn't really go back and do much more. That was enough for me. So, but at any rate, all these things that have a violence to them, right? So what are we hearing when we're watching CSI? When we're watching Friday the 13th, what are we hearing? What sound impressions are we taking in? When we listen to gossip, what sound impressions are we taking in? When we are actively partaking in the gossip, when we are repeating lines from the movie, what sounds are we putting out there? What vibrational quality do these things have? And what are they doing to ourself, to our own nervous system, to the vibrational quality that we carry, as well as to that of those around us that we're engaging in that type of conversation with? So sound can be really detrimental to us. When we're listening to anthems of hate or songs that demean people based on their gender or their sex or their station in life, I know that there are some songs that are really popular, but they talk down about women. They put women into the basically meat category, There are songs that talk about men and call them all cheaters and horrible beings. I mean, there's popular songs out on the radio right now that are asking you to get angry, that are asking you to have a reaction. I'm going to remember her name, Carrie Underwood. Oh, I don't believe. After all these years, I finally remembered her name without having to ask y'all. Carrie Underwood came out with a song years ago that said, he's a cheat, and so she's going to, like, knock out his headlights with a bat or something like that, you know? And I've never been a Carrie Underwood fan. I don't listen to her music. But this song is played on the radio how many hundreds of thousands of times a day? So the first time that it comes out, I just turn it off, you know, and just driving. And I'm going back many years. I don't even listen to the radio anymore. And then all of a sudden, one day I'm not paying attention to what's on the radio, and it comes on and it plays through. And it is a catchy tune, is it not? For those of you who have heard it, it's a catchy little ditty, right? It's like, you know, you can bop to it and whatnot. So now I've listened to it one time all the way through, and somewhere in the back of my mind, I'm now familiar with the melody, which makes me less likely to turn it off next time it comes on because I wasn't paying attention to what it was saying. I didn't make the conscious choice that this song is actually not healthy. So it comes on again, and it's got a cool little beat to it, so I leave it on. And then I'm starting to know what the words are. Girija's laughing because she's like, I can't even see that, Swamini.
But then I can.
Yeah, totally, exactly. You know, and I'm like, and as I'm sitting there, I'm listening to the words, and I'm thinking to myself, this song is like not really okay, you know. But I ignore the red flag warning, as we all do. And then pretty soon what I find is that something magnificent happened. Something that has happened to each and every one of you at some moment in your life. I started to sing that song with her attitude. Anger. I'd be perfectly fine, happy, having a great day, and that song would come on the radio, and suddenly I'd be pissed off at my husband. And he didn't even do anything. But the song implied that that's what men do. So that's not healthy. I turned it off and I never listened to it again. But I use it often as an example of sounds that we need to be mindful about listening to. No offense, Carrie. She's got a beautiful voice. She's quite a talented individual. Use that for something else. Don't make people angry. Don't make people second-guess people for no reason. Don't entice us to walk around with an attitude or a chip on our shoulder via the use of sound, because it is a misappropriation of sound. That is not what sound is meant to be for us, you know? So the first thing about sound is that we misunderstand it, we misuse it, it's misrepresented, it's manipulated, and it can hurt us in that regard. Well, what about silence? Silence is good, right? Silence is great. Silence is wonderful. There's peace in silence, isn't there? Until you misuse it, until you manipulate it, until you make it a weapon. How many of you have used silence as a weapon? Everybody's hand should be up on that one. Absolutely. We do. I'm not talking to you. I'm not talking to you. Silence is golden. Not in that moment. It's a bit rusty and kind of hazardous to your health. So silence is also not understood, not used properly, manipulated. Both of those things become distractions of the ego. They become emboldenments of the ego. You know, when we're hearing a song that's prompting up our ego, like, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to let you know how I feel. You didn't even have to do anything wrong, and I'm still going to tell you. Right? That's all ego. And when we take silence, the beauty of silence, the peace of silence, and we weaponize it, that's the ego. So whenever we are using anything for the sake of the ego, it is a misuse of whatever that thing is. Always. And it will eventually lead to no good. It will lead to harm. It will lead to further suffering on our behalf and on the behalf of whoever is on the receiving end of whatever it is we're giving. Yeah. My poor husband, he would sit there and say, you got to stop listening to that song, honey. And I'm like, I know, because we talked about it, you know, and I told him, I said, I got mad at you for nothing. And he was like, what'd you get mad at me for? And those of you who knew Ed know what I'm saying. Like, he had that, you know, what are you getting mad at me for? I didn't do anything. Like, it's the song. It's the brainwashing of the song. And then we started looking at other things that we were listening to, other shows on television that we were watching, and we just cut down greatly. It was so few things that we would watch after that. Just because we were on this path and we were realizing that every choice we make has an impact on everything. Yeah. So the misuse of sound, and it is chronic in our society. In some ways it's planned. Just look at the advertisements on the radio, Look at the billboards. And how are the billboards sound? Because you read them to yourself and you hear yourself saying those words. And if you hear yourself saying those words, on some level you start to believe the words that you're saying. So when you read the sign that says, "Tell your doctor you need this medicine." Do you remember those of you who are kind of close to my age when they weren't even allowed to say that? They weren't even allowed to say aspirin in an advertisement because that was something your doctor dealt with. And you and I, as lay people, didn't know enough about it. So they actually were not allowed, bless you, to advertise medicines in the past. That changed in, I think, early 1980s that started to change. And one of the first things was an aspirin advertisement and a Tylenol advertisement. And from there it blew up, and now it's everything. It's everything, And it's not just talk to your doctor and see if this is an option for you. It's tell your doctor you need this. So you read that advertisement to yourself, and there's a level of you that believes it to be true because you said it. Now, you're all spiritualists in this room, and you've all heard of the idea that if you speak it, it will come true. Why does it come true? Bless you. Because you start believing it, right? Well, this is the misuse of that wisdom, is that the advertisers know that too. Absolutely. The government knows it. Everybody knows it. And so we are so enculturated into this that we really need to walk around mindful of what we're looking at, what we're reading, understand that the things that we're reading that have been created in this human-made world have little value for us. So if you do happen to look at the billboard and it says, you need Oxempic, I don't even know what that's. Do you know what it's like, that new thing, right? What is it? Does anybody know what it's called? Ozempic, yeah. You need Ozempic, And it's like, know yourself well enough to follow that reading up with, no, I don't. No, I don't. I do not need that. I do not need the suggestion, the impression placed in my mind. I have too many other ones I'm still working through. Start to practice discernment so that as you're walking through life and you're hearing these sounds, that number one, you know what you're hearing. And number two, you have some understanding of the impact that they're going to have on you. No sound is harmless in that regard. No sound that has been put forth by a human with ulterior motivation is innocent. Right? The only sounds that are innocent are what sounds? The divine sounds. The sounds that you and I didn't create, that you and I didn't make. When it's an English language, a French language, a German language, any other human-made language, it's got an ulterior motive. It's to communicate. And what is it to communicate? Social values that are considered to be appropriate for a particular time period, and the way that society thinks that you should be in fulfilling your gender roles, and what kind of a citizen you should be. These are not necessarily bad things, but they don't address the entirety of you. They address what society tells you you should be. So, whenever you're in conversation with someone, understand that the words that are coming out of their mouth, no matter who they are, that those words are limited. But when you sit down and chant Om, when you sit down and chant the mantras, when you're reading from the Bhagavad Gita, preferably in its original language, but that's not easy. So even in the transliteration and the translation, well, that's another topic, but anyway. Know that you're getting closer and closer to that which is innocent, to that which is pure, to that which is not manipulated. And the more that we're embedded in the English language or whatever language it happens to be that's human-made, the more manipulated and manipulative it can be. We're taught from the time we're children. Mickey Mouse Club. And maybe you remember Mickey Mouse Club? What was the one thing that you learned on Mickey Mouse Club? For sure. What was one thing that you learned? Did you have your hand up, or were you just fixing your hair?
No, I don't know actually, but Mickey Mouse Club was Justin Timberlake and Britney Spears, or no?
Well, yeah, that was later. Yeah,
Oh.
yeah, it's a lot older than that.
Oh.
I think it started in I don't even know, 1950 or 40 or something.
I don't remember.
Well, they tell little kids how to be little kids, don't they? On the Mickey Mouse Club. And similar shows to that. They tell little kids how to be little kids. They tell them what to like. What about Barney? Does anybody remember Barney?
Mm-hmm.
What did Barney tell you? Right, exactly. And they're not bad things, He also taught you how to sing his song. And what did you want to do the moment you learned how to sing his song? Anybody? You wanted to sing it over and over and over again, but what else did you want to do? Somebody was going to say it, I think.
Clean up.
Huh?
Start to put things away.
Maybe. But there was one thing. My son, for a very limited period of time, thank God, loved Barney. And the moment he learned how to sing that song, he wanted to go out and buy the Barney doll that sang it too. Manipulation. It's not bad. You just have to know what it is. And then recognize that there's something far more valuable to you. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay. So if all of the sound that we hear in our culture is easily manipulated and can become quite harmful for us, how do we get in touch with the sound that is not easily manipulated, that is not going to hurt us? You have to step on your path. You have to take a strong foot, one after the other, on your path, become well embedded in your sadhana, your spiritual practice. And some part of that needs to include mantra, so learning how to chant. If you're not inclined toward the Sanatana Dharma, then pray in whatever tradition you are. Learn a Latin prayer, right? Latin is one of the other pure languages. Learn a Latin prayer. Learn how to pray without asking for something. Because the world teaches us how to ask for things. Well, I'm going to chant this mantra 254 times so that I can get this. Put that off to the side. Don't use your prayer in that way. Pray for the simple sake of peace. That's all. Just pray for peace. Pray for unity. Pray to be closer to God. Pray to be quiet. Don't associate it with getting or giving anything. Just pray in whatever tradition you're part of. And the sound there, and even if you're praying in English, if you don't have another option available to you, when you take the conditions away, the prayer becomes more powerful. It opens you up to something else. It opens you up to inner silence. And the inner silence is the key. In the teachings, they say, for the individual who is steadfast on their path, strong in their study, who is sincere in seeking out the truth of the self, all rituals will eventually fall away. There won't be a need for practices of a physical nature. They won't even need to chant. They'll just be in the essence of that inner silence, that inner stillness. That will be everything to them, because that is the truth of them. But in the meantime, we have the practices, we have the asana, the meditation, the concentration practices, and all these other things. in part because we need these as a precursor to the work of cultivating a relationship with that inner silence, with that inner peace. And what do I mean by inner silence? Is inner silence actually silent? Or is it just that the manipulation is not there of the sound? Because if you close your eyes, everybody close your eyes, sit tall, close your eyes, block out all external sounds except my voice right now, block out all other external sounds, bring your awareness inside of yourself and listen inside of yourself. Block me out now also. Flutter your eyes open. Was it silent?
It reminds me when you go to the beach and you pick up a seashell and you can hear the ocean. You can hear that same ebb and flow of your breath. It's in us too.
Absolutely. So the breath is actually bringing sound in. Is that the only thing that you hear, though? I mean, is your innermost self absolutely void of sound? What were you going to say, Heather?
No, I mean, you hear other sounds, other ambient noise.
Yeah, it's not silent. And then once you look at the physiological sounds, the sound of breathing, the sound of the heart, thump, 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 the sound of the blood pressure in your body, even when you go beyond those, you go to the very core of yourself, to the center of your own soul, you're still going to hear a sound. And the sound that you're going to hear there is the resonant sound of Om. Because Om is the sound of consciousness. It's the sound that permeates everything everywhere. So when we say silent, what we're saying is Om. We're saying tune into consciousness, to the sound of consciousness. Not human ego, but consciousness itself. That is silence. Why is it silent? It's silence because all of those other things are absent from it. The manipulation and all that, the reaction and the preference and the attachment, it's all absent. The only thing that this internal sound of Om, the only thing that it is combined with is peace. That's it, peace. So somebody asked this morning, I think it was Marissa asked this morning, so am I actually meditating if I'm having thoughts, if I'm thinking, actively thinking? And the answer is no, that's not. That's concentration. You're trying to control it. You're trying to take yourself away from it. And why is that so hard? Because we're afraid of the other end of that. We're afraid of what we don't know. We're actually afraid of Om. We're afraid of the sound of consciousness and the silence that it imposes. We're afraid of that because we don't know it. We don't know who we are when we're associated with it. We don't know how to associate with it. So we're afraid of it. And so we're trying, we're just like, Swamini or some other teacher said, let go of the thoughts, let them go. Okay, I'm going to let them go. I'm going to push them away. I'm going to get rid of them. But there's also a part of you that's like, no, don't go too far. Don't go too far. Just to there. Just stay there where I can still see you. Right? It's like when you let your dog off the leash for the first time, trying to trust that the dog isn't going to run away from you. It's like that. It's like you tell the dog, just sit there, stay there, don't go nowhere. And you're talking to your thoughts the same way, even if you don't know you are. Pay attention next time and notice how attached you really are to those self-identifications that we're trying to tether a little bit. But we're like, not completely. Not completely. Because if I don't have that identification, who am I? Well, you're not that. You're not those thoughts. Matter of fact, you're only who you think you are as long as you're walking through this world. That's the picture of yourself you've drawn for yourself. It only lasts as long as this life lasts. The truth of you comes out in the end. And then it gets hidden again next time. And then it comes out again. And then it gets hidden again. It's the divine conceal and conceal again and reveal again. Sometimes we're very fortunate and we get little revelations in this life while we're walking through this world. We get little revelations about the potential that we carry. And sometimes it takes a crisis. It takes us being tired, sick and tired. And we say, that's it. I've been trying to go to this silent retreat forever. I just need some silence in my life. I got to turn off this noise. I'm going. We don't know what to expect, but we end up on the ashram's doorstep. We come into the program. We sit down. We close our eyes. We're like, what was I thinking? I can't do this. What are we actually saying there? We're saying, the version of me that I have written in this life doesn't believe that I can do something like this because I don't really want it to on some level, because I don't know who I am if I'm peaceful and quiet and free of all of the drama. I don't know who I am. How do I relate to you if I don't have drama to relate to you with and through? And so we say, okay, I'm going to give it a little bit of a try because I'm just so tired, just so sick and tired. So I'm going to give it an effort. I'm going to put some effort forward. I'm going to keep the thoughts at arm's length. Just not going to let them disappear completely because, what do they say? The enemy you know versus the enemy you don't, or some. How's that quote go? Exactly. The devil you know versus the devil you don't. Yeah. You don't know Om. You may know a little bit, have a thought, an idea, but you only know it completely when you surrender to it. And in order to surrender to that beautiful sound vibration, which is the very core of your being, you have to let the others go. You can't keep them at arm's length anymore. And then all of a sudden, everything becomes an awareness. I don't need those new shoes. They don't define me. I don't need that new car. I have a perfectly fine car. I don't need popularity. I don't need fame. I don't need fortune. I don't need these things. Society tells me I need them. I don't need them. What is it that I need? I need food to be nourished, good food to be nourished. I need air to breathe, water to drink. If I want to stay in this physical body, right, and have an experience of myself some level awakened within this body, I just need the basic things. Shelter from the storm, perhaps. Yeah. The ability to close my eyes and to be peaceful, quiet, to go inside of myself. That's all you need. But then we say, well, no, we need everything else too, don't we? I mean, how is society, that's the first question, how is society going to look at me if I don't go after the gold, the silver, the platinum, the award? How will I be seen? What will my family think of me? What will I think of me? On the one side of your brain, you're saying, well, I think I'd probably be a lot happier. The other side is saying, no, you wouldn't. That side's the ego, by the way. No, you wouldn't. You wouldn't be happier. You'd be worried about what everybody's thinking about you. Do you see the point that I'm making? Yeah. The more that we're embroiled in the languaging of things, the more that we're listening to the sounds that are detrimental to us, the more these belief systems are being reinforced in us, the harder it becomes to break their hold. We really need to dive into a spiritual practice that is powerful, straightforward. We need to give it our all. And even if we're afraid, give it your all. Find out who you really are by going deeper, not by staying on the shallow end. Chant more, not less. But I can't get up early in the morning. That's the story you told yourself. You're perfectly capable of getting up early in the morning. Well, no, I'm really not. I mean, I have family responsibilities and I work a lot of hours. And that doesn't stop you from staying up extra late to watch the movie you want to watch, does it? What's the difference between staying up really late to watch the movie that you really want to watch and getting up really early to chant the mantra you really want to chant?
One feels like rebellion and the other one is self-care.
Yeah, and which one do we tend to pick?
The rebellion.
Absolutely.
Towards suffering.
Yeah.
Towards suffering.
Absolutely. Exactly. So I have a lot of sympathy and empathy when people say that to me, but it's so funny because you have no idea. I will get asked the same question over and over again. Is there another mantra I can do? Is there another, maybe some of you have asked me this question. Is there another mantra that I can do? Because I've tried that one and it's not bringing me peace. Well, how many times have you chanted it? How long have you been chanting it? Well, last time we talked was about a month ago. Okay. Right there I want to stop the conversation, but out of compassion I just let it go. Okay. And how often are you chanting? Daily? When I can. What does that mean? Well, I usually get at least one like full mala in a week, and then the rest of it is when I can. What does that mean, when you can? Well, is it okay when I'm driving? No, right? Summer's like, no. Is it okay when I'm taking a shower? No. Is it okay if I just do like a quarter of the mala now and a quarter of it at lunch and a quarter of it at dinner and a quarter of it before I go to bed? No. You haven't chanted it. You don't know it doesn't work. You haven't chanted it. You haven't dove in deep. You're still playing on the shallow end because you're afraid of the deep water. You need to sit down and chant 10 japa a day. Every day. Whether you feel like you're on top of the world and you don't need it, or you feel like you're in the depths of hell and you know you need something, whether you feel completely physically healthy or you have the flu. Now, if you're deathly ill, then that's your only excuse. Okay, then maybe you chant 5 mala instead of 10. But every day, without interruption. Patanjali tells us this very clearly in his Yoga Sutras. He says, a yoga practice, and by yoga practice he doesn't mean asana, he means the technique that is going to bring you to that place of self-awareness and awakening. A yoga practice is only a practice when it has been practiced consistently for a long period of time with little to no interruption and with?
Silence.
What was that?
Steadiness.
Not with silence.
Steadiness.
Not so.
Joy.
Yes. Enthusiasm or joy. Not joy like, oh, I'm so happy I have a practice. But enthusiastic joy like, there's no choice between the late night movie and the sadhana. Of course I'm going to get up and do my sadhana. That's the thing that saves me. That's the thing that supports me. That's the thing that matters. The movie, any Saturday afternoon is fine. Forget the nighttime. I'm going to go to bed early so that I can get up and do what matters. Enthusiasm. Absolutely. But also with steadiness. That's the continuity of it. And what did you say? You said, and with silence, yes. With little to no disruption. Absolutely. That you could look at that as silence. You're turning the phone off. You know, you're not putting this on buzz or vibrate. You're turning it off. You're turning off the dinger on your email. You know, you have your place where it's just you and your practice, and these outside sounds no longer have an impact on you. They no longer steal you away from that which really matters. It's only when we step onto the path like that, significantly, intentionally, powerfully, that we're actually going to find out what this practice can do for us. Until then, what does the mind hear? What was the first thing you heard about yoga, like before you even started? What was one of the first things you heard that like called you to kind of be like, oh, that sounds interesting?
I was doing, sorry, I used to do P90X, and they had like a yoga, and the guy was like, this is great for the nerves, and you'll be flexible and strong. So I was like, cool.
Yeah.
I'm going to try it. Yeah, that was like.
So the sound bites, right? They call them sound bites for a reason, right? The sound bites drew you in,
Yeah.
right? How about you, Amber? What was the first catchy thing that you heard?
To lead me towards it?
That kind of was like, yeah,
Do
Amber.
you ever hear that song, you like pina coladas, you get caught in the rain?
Yeah,
You're
totally.
not into yoga and you have half a brain. I was like, why would he say that about yoga? Like, no, that was the first time.
Totally.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for that reminder, by the way. What a great song.
Yeah.
Never really
Why
realized.
would he say that?
Yeah, if you're not into yoga. And you have half a brain, I'll meet you at midnight. Wow. If you're not into yoga, why will he not meet you at midnight if you are into yoga? Who knows the answer to that?
Why?
What was that?
You're not awake at midnight. You're getting up for yoga.
Well, but why would he not be interested in you if you are into yoga?
Because you know too much.
Because you know too much, and you're not going to fall for those simple words. Yeah, that's really good. I'm going to remember that one. What else? What was your first catch?
It was the singing bowl.
Yeah, that's lovely. So it wasn't a commercial or anything like that, or it was the sound.
It was the end of the class. It was like a hot class in a gym. They had like heaters all around. I didn't know what I was doing. And we were in Shavasana, and then they owned and hit the bowl. And I was like, this is me.
Why did you go to the hot yoga class to begin with?
I was in a rec center. We were playing basketball in a league, and I ran into my friend, and his wife was teaching yoga, and I was like, "Yeah, I want to do that." And I did the whole I gotta do some yoga, the stretches. Little did I know. And I was early for the next week. I thought my game was at 6:00, and here it was at 7, and I went to the class.
Yeah.
That was it. I was there every week.
Yeah.
The rest is history.
Did anybody walk into your very first yoga class, walked into that class because you didn't expect anything at all? No, you were told by somebody to expect a stretch, to expect a reduction in tension, to expect awakening, to expect a miracle, to expect to get into your optimal clothing size, to get something, to get power, to get some kind of power to attract things. You were told to expect something. Nobody in this room went in because they weren't expecting something, right? But then when you got there, maybe half of you, perhaps on that very first class, maybe more of you, I hope, but had that type of an experience where it was like, this is crazy. This is not what I thought it was. This is knocking on a deep inner door. This is waking something up, and I don't know. I'm both scared, but I also want to know, what is this? What is that sound? I want more of that, I need more of that. There was something that compelled you to continue. And then moving forward from there, we would all really benefit from understanding that our journey, our path in this regard has been modeled, and that kind of means blended, mixed, modeled with the billboard announcements and the promises from the self-help book and the little voice inside that says, you'll heal really from doing this. But that little voice inside saying, continue and you will find healing, is oftentimes just covered over, concealed, from the screams from the self-help book. The screams, well, go to yoga and come to know yourself. Know why you are this amazing, awesome person the way you are. Know why people should accept you exactly as you are. When they're saying that, they're not saying that you don't have work to do to correct yourself. That's not what they're saying, but they're turning it a certain way so that it's emboldening your ego to believe, I'm good exactly as I am, and if you don't like it, there's the door. I'm okay. Meet me exactly where I am. I actually had somebody one time say to me, well, you're not practicing what yoga teaches because you're not accepting me exactly as I am. And I said, yoga doesn't tell me to accept you exactly as you are. That's not what yoga teaches. Yoga says, once you pull away all those painful levels and layers of falseness, what you find underneath of all of that is exactly what you are. But first, we have to do the painful work of removing all of the layers, the stories, the belief systems, the billboards, the expectations, the attachments. But the self-help book doesn't often tell you that unless you read past page 3. Or more than just the titles of the chapters. How many of you are guilty of that, honestly?
I mean, you're supposed to read the last chapter?
Yeah. Oh, so fun. It really is. But even the languaging, as you're reading that book, you're reading it with your own inner voice and you're hearing yourself say it. So if you're only reading the headlines, the titles of the chapters, and they're like, you're exactly enough as you are. You're not reading, what that actually means. Or they're not presenting it appropriately. And it's being misconstrued and then misunderstood. So you owe it to yourself to go beyond the easy. Go beyond what the book says. And go into the self-inquiry. And the way that you do that is by sitting down and closing your eyes or keeping them open and staring at a single object like Ma. And layer by layer, these external voices, people talking in the kitchen, that has nothing to do with me. The people I hear breathing in this room, that has nothing to do with me. The sounds of the HVAC unit has nothing to do with me. The sound of my clothing rustling against itself has nothing to do with me. The sound of my own voice saying these things in my head has nothing to really do with me. Because it's just regurgitating things that I've heard elsewhere. These words, that it has nothing to do with me, are necessary, but I have to go beyond even those words into the space where there are no words. There's only sound. And what sound is it that's there? It's Om. That's why so many of us are so attracted to the healing bowls and to that mantra at the end of the class, because there's a promise there, and it's a true promise. It's not a false promise. It says if you're willing to do away with, to healthfully disregard all these things that you believe about yourself which are not accurate, you'll come into a place where you find yourself. And you won't be the same. You will not be the you that you're looking at in the mirror today. You may look the same. You may still wear that bandana, have those wonderful dreadlocks, have wonderfully ginger hair or dark brown hair, curly hair, glasses. That may all still be there, but the you behind all of that disguise will be different. That will be a you that is not as invested in the sounds of the human-made world or the silence of the human-made world. It will be a you that goes deeper than that, looks for the truth in each moment, and not just the opinionated truth, not what I think I know, not the thought-laden truth, but the truth. Seeks that out. And when you're seeking out that truth, there really isn't much room left for the midnight Netflix marathon. Because you got to get up at 4 a.m. during the Brahma Muhurta to do what really matters. Does that make sense? Not that there's anything wrong with a Netflix marathon, but maybe not so often, and maybe not such violent choices. Maybe not such violent choices. Yeah. Just time check. Questions, reflections. I'm interested to hear from any of our retreat attendees how this conversation supports anything that you might have experienced this weekend. And from our regular attendees also, how this talk may reflect on anything in life. Rachel, did you want to say something?
I've been away for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Come back. Just brought me back to peace. It's so peaceful here. We get all clouded with the Black Friday deals.
We were making a little joke yesterday. We were going to announce a few things yesterday, or on Friday rather. We were going to announce our new website, the Kerala India trip in full, and my new Facebook page and some other things too. But then it all just happened such that we weren't able to do that just yet. We have to wait until perhaps Monday or Tuesday because they weren't able to get the website up online. And so we started bantering back and forth to each other, Jayoti, Casey, and myself. And we were like, there's already enough of that sounding in the world between Thanksgiving Thursday, Black Friday, Small Business Saturday, Digital Monday, and Giving Tuesday. People are already bombarded with so much. Why bombard them with more right now? We'll just lay low until a different moment. And for sure. I hear you, Rachel. Welcome back. Yeah. Yes, Giricha.
I have a question. As I remember more of who I am and the reality of that space of silent sound becomes more of an experience reality, I find myself really struggling to understand how to navigate such a world of sound and manipulative silence. I want to be of service and I want to interact, but it's such a beautiful, peaceful place. It becomes harder for me to do so, and I also have experienced people that have known me before. They seem very threatened and uncomfortable with how quiet I am now, and either agitates them and almost seems to frustrate them, or there's like I'm trying to coax them. And it's not that I don't want to talk. If I want to say something, I'll say something, but I don't feel that need. And then also, this is turning into a very long question. It feels so loud all the time out there, it's like almost assaulting a little bit. So how do you be human and walk a human life, right? And also have this going on inside of you. It's challenging.
It's extremely challenging. And we should never downplay that. It is extremely challenging. First of all, people who promise you nothing but thornless roses for stepping onto your spiritual path are lying to you. You're going to find more thorns than you do roses. You have to. It's a given. Are you going to have great moments of enjoyment? Yes, of course you are. But you're going to have more moments of peeling off the bandage. And it's going to hurt. It's going to be painful. It's a lonely path to walk at times because you can't walk it with other people. Not really. You can have other people around you who are like-minded, who you can have solidarity with because you know that you're all in the depths of this together, so there's just something supportive about that. But really, it's lonely at times because you're the only one who can do your work. I can't go up to you and say, you know what I'm going through, right? I mean, you can you tell me that I'm right for you? Can't tell me anything about my path. None of you can. Only I can know that because I'm the only one who can experience it. And I'm the only one who is carrying my specific karmas that have to be reconciled. So this is isolated work, myself, to me, and the more that I am invested in the banners and the billboards and the screaming that happens in the outside world, the less capable I am of turning into myself courageously into the loneliness of what has to be done in order to find out, to reveal to myself more of the truth of myself. So I have to make an active choice that I'm going to be less involved out there. Now, what does that mean, less involved? In the past, some people who wear the cloth, they go and live in a cave. I don't think that that's realistic either, because if you act as if the distraction isn't there, you're not learning how to deal with the distraction. You're just denying its plausibility, and that's not going to serve you in the long run, in my humble opinion. For some people, maybe yes, because that's where they're going to live their life and that's where they're going to die, and they will never have to have the confrontation of the world. Fine. That for them it works. But I'm heavy into the world because I'm a servant to people. So I'm constantly walking through the world. So I have to pick and choose mindfully. What am I going to be involved in? Am I going to invest in buying the latest and greatest fashion? Am I going to invest in the billboards and, whatever they're shouting at me from the TV commercials? Am I going to invest in TV? Am I going to invest in violence? What am I going to invest in? And those decisions have to be made mindfully, because you have to understand this is not a partial truth. This is a truth, a full, honest-to-God human truth. The more you invest in that, the less you are investing in this. You cannot do both at the same time. You cannot give your energy away and save it at the same time. It doesn't work that way. So you have to make some clear choices. And some of those choices for myself include, I'm not going to gossip. Now, I'm not going to gossip. I'm not going to go out drinking or doing drugs or anything along those lines. I don't go out dancing. I used to love dancing when I was younger. I was a dancer. So I used to love going dancing when I was younger. I don't do that. I don't go to clubs in any way, shape, or form, and I haven't for many decades now. All of my friends thought I was going nuts. My family thought I was going crazy. They were like, what's wrong with you? Like, this isn't you. I was like, do you even know what you're saying? You don't know me. Anyway, all you know is whatever I showed you. So they're going to be shocked. Your family, your friends, they're going to be concerned. They're going to think there's something wrong, there's something weird, there's something off. You cannot be thrown by that. I mean, you can. That's your choice. That's your free will. But if you want to stay steadfast on this path of inquiry, you cannot allow that to steal your energy. You need to just simply understand that their reaction to the work that you're doing is a complicated mix of their fear of losing you as they think they know you, their inability to recognize that you are so much more than what they have put you into, and their own self-judgment about themselves as they watch you diving deeper into your own path. There's a part of them that's judging themselves. Well, what if this is what I'm supposed to be doing, and I don't want to give up the clubs yet. I don't want to give up the alcohol yet. I don't want to give up the drugs yet. So now they're putting themselves through the throes of guilt because of what you're doing to find yourself. They're blaming. It's a combination of that and many other things. So we just need to accept that people are complicated. They're not straightforward. They're not simple. They're complicated. There's a lot of reasons why they react the way that they react. Is any part of it love? Human love, sure. But human love is as flawed as the human is. So that a parent comes and says, to the child, well, you're not the same person, or even a friend comes and says, you're not the same person that I knew you to be. Is that love or is that fear? Shouldn't love transcend what you think you know? And hold the space for the potential of what could be? Yeah, but in our humanness, we don't think that way. We start thinking that way when we read Rumi or the Bhagavad Gita. Then we start realizing, oh, well, wait a minute, there's a lot more to this being human than just what people think I am. And oftentimes what people think they see when they see you is only a reflection that they're looking at of themselves anyway. If anybody in here who is a parent, when you look at your child, the first thing that you see when you look at your child is not an independent being who is self-created. It is your progeny. It is what you created. And it's the same thing with friends. The first thing we see when we look at a friend is not an independent person who is self-made. It is a person who we have identified a certain way. We are looking at our creation. We would be well to stop doing that to some degree. Because once we stop doing that to some degree, then we will truly start to see independent beings, living independent lives, having independent experiences, all leading to eventually the same place. But still, it's lonely work. So everything that you're saying is, I absolutely would expect, It's scary, it's frightening, it's lonely, it's painful at times, but it's necessary. The piece of sand does not become a pearl without a little tumbling. Totally. Does that make sense? Yeah. Did I answer all? I did, okay. Any other questions or reflections right now? Do you have a little something to think about for the week? So when you're driving home today after you have your wonderful brunch and you turn on the radio, I like that reaction. It's like, understand what you're listening to and maybe pop Krishna Dasan instead.
Speaking of driving, so the same instrument and the way it's used and intended, like in India, where they're driving, and the use of their horn says, I'm here, look out.
Please beep.
Here. Please, I'm here.
Yeah.
And our horn says, I'm more important to you. Move out of my way. This is violence, 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 violence. The same exact, used in a different way with a different intention.
You're not good enough. Get out of my way. You're always in my way. I can't get there fast enough. Totally. And in India, they actually have little signs that says, please beep. Please beep. Yeah. And they have horns that play songs. It's like, it's crazy. Anybody been to India before? Yeah.
Oh, no, I haven't been.
Oh, go ahead.
Question when you're done.
Go ahead.
You answered a lot of my question in her question, but two kinds of things is how do you, for example, in the workplace or your family, when someone is gossiping, or instead of relating in your old way and you want to relate in new ways, how do you do it? And also, how do you share with the people that you love but are not like you because they're not on the path? Because I felt that loneliness on this path too, except for like-minded people. Share what your needs are with those people, because I've noticed that it's almost this, I wanted to be the old way, but I'm not that person. So it's we used to do this thing together, let's say with a particular family member, but it's just not the same. And how do you share that your needs with them when they are the same but you're different?
Yeah.
And then in a workplace or a family where there's gossiping but you don't want to be a part of it, but maybe you used to do that or something.
So the first, there's so many different points to make with that, but the first thing is, the answer is not to tell them they're wrong. Okay, so that's not the answer. The answer is not to go to them and say, gossiping is like really bad sound for you. You shouldn't be. Don't. They haven't had this conversation. They haven't done an inquiry like that, unless they have. But you don't know that.
And mind you, most of these people that I'm like thinking in my head, like they haven't done any work or very little.
Yeah, and also humbly keeping in mind that just because you don't see it happening doesn't mean it isn't. Right? Just because you don't see that they have tried meditation doesn't mean it hasn't happened. Just because you don't see that they're inquiring doesn't mean that they aren't. It just means that you're not seeing it. You don't see the whole picture. Every single human being is called to inquire. That's the natural state of our humanness, is to inquire about who am I really. So instead of that, don't tell them that they're wrong for what they're doing. Instead, you understand that the gossip is potentially, in their eyes, answering a need. Identify the need and use your creativity to introduce something softly and gently that's an alternative. Not like, I know you guys always get together around the water bin on Friday afternoons at 4 o'clock and talk an hour about people in the office. Let's not do that this week. Let's try something else. Don't do that. Don't even bring up gossiping. Instead, very strategically, any of you have cats? Okay, only one person here has a cat. Okay, that's better. It's like, where's all the cat people? Okay, do you tell your cat, no? Why? They're not going to listen. So what do? You redirect skillfully. So it's you still want to have conversation with these people, but you don't want to have it be about gossip. Then say to them, how about we have a book club? How about we take like a half hour every Friday afternoon and we talk about this book, which I just started reading, which is really awesome. It could be like Eckhart Tolle or something. I don't know, whatever, So you redirect the conversation. And every time that they go back into their habits, which we all know what that's like because every one of us does, you redirect it. Two people are sitting at the back table and they're talking about how, so-and-so and so-and-so, or, maybe having an inter-office thing, whatever. You call them back to the conversation. You don't say, don't be talking about them that way. No, you don't even address it. You just say, so now let's go around the room and see who has thoughts on this one statement in this chapter. How about you, so-and-so, sitting in the back of the room? You call them to something else, like you would call the cat to its toy. It's the most skillful way to go about changing behavior, is to redirect. If you want to change a conversation with somebody, you don't tell the other person there's something wrong with the conversation because you're effectively telling them that they're wrong. You change the way you speak. You change what you're talking about. And eventually they're going to meet you there. But there will be resistance. There will absolutely be some kind of resistance, especially if you're like talking to a parent and the parent is used to interacting with you in a certain way and you're not interested in that interaction anymore. Don't come off as Heidi, as like elevated or anything like that. It's very easy to just say to a person, right now that's not the conversation that I need. I'm actually going through some stuff right now, and it would really be supportive of me if we could talk about this instead. Could we have a conversation about that? Because I think your insights might really be supportive. You give them an opportunity to be of service to you. You give them an opportunity to shine through. You don't tell them that's what you're doing, but you give them that opportunity because every human soul wants to shine through. That's what we're called to do. We're called to marry the goodness, within our own self, to shine brightly within our own self. And we also need to understand that there's going to be resistance there. That they may still want to talk about, Uncle Bob's drinking problem at Thanksgiving, And you don't have to take part in that. You can excuse yourself. You can simply say, I don't want to have this conversation. I'm moving past this. Because you may be moving past the conversation, but you're not yet moving past the sense of disgust that the conversation is happening. That's your next level work, is to move past your reaction to the conversation. So instead, you say, I think I'm going to head out a little early today. Because I just need to go and to sit for a little while and to just get some rest. That's all. You don't need to explain yourself. Don't be an explainer. Don't be an explainer. You don't have to say, I'm so sorry. I don't like taking part in these conversations anymore because I'm on this spiritual path and it's telling me not to gossip about people and this is gossip. And you don't need people to know that. They don't need to know that. You don't need to explain yourself to anybody. I'm sorry, I'm not like that anymore. It's because I'm like this now, because I'm doing this. You don't need to tell them that. And invite them to a yoga class. Invite them to meditate. They may say no. So what? Let them have their reaction. It doesn't matter. It's okay. We're all going to come to it when it's our time. You can be guaranteed of that. So if you say, well, I invited my mom to go to yoga with me, and she was like, I'm not going to be able to do yoga. And so she said no. Fine. That's her right. That's her free will. That's her choice. She can say no. And you don't have to take it personally. At all. You don't have to take it personally. People understand you? Don't take it personally, because they actually don't. People don't understand you? Don't take it personally, because they never did. They're grabbing on to a life preserver. What they think is a life preserver. They're just grabbing because they're drowning in their own suffering the same way that you and I are. And they think that you're going to save them. But you got to save yourself. You can't save everybody else. They got to save themselves. You got to put your mask on first. There's truth in that. There was one other thing I wanted to say to that, but it left me now, so I guess that was enough. Yeah. So don't apologize, don't explain, don't judge, don't be elevated. Redirect, be creative, without lecturing. Yeah. And love anyway. And just know we're all as lost as each other. I mean, when it comes down to it, we all cry. We all have moments of great vulnerability. We all have moments of great pain and suffering. We all have moments of great joy. We all have moments of great potential and great, not so great potential. Yeah. We all have those moments. And just because we happen to be in a moment where we've decided we're going to come together and have this conversation doesn't mean that we're beyond those things. Because as long as we are of this world, in this world, walking through this world, we have the vulnerability to go back to that or to rethink it in some new creative way, you know? Like I love when people are, they found the spiritual path, they found themselves, and they're no longer interested in capitalism and America and fame and fortune, but I got this book. Would you buy it? I wrote it. You know, it's like, it's the same gift, it's just different packaging. And we all do it, every one of us. I don't care if it's you, me, or whoever. We all do it. It's a consequence of being in this world and reading all those billboards. The question is, do you know you're doing it? And can you balance that so that it's less deceptive and more honest? So yeah, I do have books in this store, but buy them if you want them. Don't buy them if you don't want them. I'm not going to push them on you. You know, make your choice the way you go about it, and make it knowingly. Yeah, does that make sense? Yeah. Good. Let's sit tall. Close the eyes. Draw the hands together in front of the heart. And we'll lift our voices in one Om, followed by the All Beings mantra. Taking a breath in. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Om Shri Matre Namaha. Thank you all so much for being here today. Thank you to our retreat attendees for being here this weekend, to our regular attendees for being here today. Where is she? There she is back there. To each and every one of you for being who you are. Exactly. Because you embracing who you are in a healthy way means that you don't hide the work you have to do. You embrace the work you have to do. And you allow us the honor of witnessing that struggle so that maybe we become more courageous in our own work. But if all I ever see is you hiding the work that you have to do behind fancy names and accolades and self-help books, then that's the only thing I'm ever going to learn. Don't be one of those billboards. Be the one that says, let's do the work. Good. If you haven't had brunch, enjoy. If you're traveling, safe travels. And I'll see you soon. Thank you.